The Juvenile Law Center's Leadership Prize is awarded to outstanding advocates working to advance the rights and well-being of youth in the child welfare and juvenile justice systems.
Just as these efforts to advance the field will continue, though, the innovations should continue to be recognized and noted and celebrated. As a result, it gives me great pleasure to be able to announce tonight the establishment of the Juvenile Law Center Leadership Prize.
Every prize needs an inaugural winner. And so the inaugural winner of the Juvenile Law Center Leadership Prize for 2015 is Bob Schwartz.
Many of us in our profession are asked, what do we do? And we say, well, we're lawyers for children. But that's not really the story. We're building a better world for them. You and me, the folks at Juvenile Law Center, all of our colleagues, our partners, our funders, that's what we're building together.
All of you are part of this movement. We all care about children. We all care about young people, and that we know that we could do so much harm, and we have done so much harm by incarcerating our young people.
I'm happy to say that we've been able to make significant changes in international standards on child soldiers, on child domestic workers, and on children working with mercury and gold mines.
And I look forward to continuing to work with all of you to ensure every child the prize of a loving, safe, permanent family.
We're all getting started. I stand on the shoulders of giants, and there are many, but I also know many people like me that are young and up and coming that are going to do much greater things, and I'm proud, and I'm humbled, and I'm honored, and I'm grateful.
I believe that Americans should be informed that our vision of justice is skewed, manipulated by racism, classism, and stubbornness that keeps outdated policy in place.
Juvenile Law Center, thank you so much for everything that you stand for. I appreciate you.
I also want to thank my family, Stoneleaf Foundation, who helped me when I did finish the Human Rights Watch report, which was amazing, based on 500 interviews of children that were raised on registries.
Our strongest messengers are people who are formerly incarcerated men and women and victims of violent crime.
We all have the obligation to stop, to listen, and to elevate and lift up our young people, and to celebrate their hope and their vision, and to let them lead us to a better world for every single young person who's in foster care. We can get there. Cheers.
There is an unprecedented opportunity to change our country's approach to child welfare, to create one that is far more prevention-oriented, racially just, and centered on the needs of children and families.
You don't just use forensic psychiatrists or psychologists. You have to consult with the world of the psychiatrists and psychologists who know how these things affect kids.
I learned many critical lessons in my first case. Children and families suffer great harm in systems that value convenience over compassion. One person paying attention can disrupt giant bureaucracies.
Over several months, we visited inmates in Kansas, Missouri, and Texas, including one man on death row, all who grew up in foster care. All of them described the trauma of being removed from their homes. Michelle Voorhees, an inmate in Kansas, told us, every single move is a traumatic experience, and the more you get moved around, the more trauma you endure.
Moments like this really give us an opportunity to think about why we advocate for children. And I can't help but think of all of the Black and brown children who have been impacted by policing in America.
Right now is a time where I believe we can transform child welfare between the technology push, the new funding, the centering of lived experience in a way that it has never been centered before.
Good evening. I'm so excited to be with all of you again tonight, albeit virtually, but I feel like you're right with me celebrating tonight's winners, Tom Grisso, Cyntoia Brown-Long, and Dorothy Roberts. This is our 7th Leadership Prize. That's just exciting for me to think about. And this is an opportunity for us to really fulfill a piece of our mission, which is to build the field of children's rights advocates. And we do that tonight by recognizing the amazing accomplishments of our 3 winners, but also highlighting the work of Juvenile Law Center. Together, tonight's winners really encompass the scope of the field. So Tom Grisso's work really as a pioneer in researching adolescent developmental science and its relationship and impact on how we should think about juvenile justice policy. Cyntoia Brown-Long, representing the importance of people with lived experience leading the advocacy and the remarkable necessity of second chances for young people who find themselves in the justice system. And Dorothy Roberts, whose work on the child welfare system and putting forth abolition as an ultimate goal of the of work in the child welfare system, and abolition as a way to build a safer world. Those were guiding pieces of our new strategic plan, which I hope you will all go on our website and read and become inspired and just further your partnership with us. We meet again during COVID, we meet again virtually, and we meet again amidst tremendous strife in our country. Just the other day, I was saying when the leak came in the Supreme Court, it just feels like too much. And it's nights like this, it's partnerships with all of you, it's the inspiring work that we do every day at Juvenile Law Center and that we're celebrating amidst our recipients tonight that make it all so important to keep moving forward together. During COVID, as you know, we've sprang into action with concerns about young people who were in placements that were breeding grounds for COVID, the emergency needs of our own youth advocates for housing and transportation and safety and everything that goes into suddenly being remote and isolated in the world. We're working amidst a public health crisis, trying to support our staff as all of you are doing in your own workplaces. But for youth in the child welfare and justice system, everything is amplified, everything is more challenging, and the work of Juvenile Law Center and the work of tonight's recipients is so very critical. I hope that you will join the chat during tonight, send out shout outs. Please consider giving as the night continues. You'll hear lots of encouragement from members of our board and others. So if you can text to 44321 and text 2022 prize, so that's 2022 prize to 44321. I want to just encourage all of you to follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, sign up for our communications, and may we meet together. I know I've said this too many times already, but may we meet together in person soon. Thanks so much for being with us, and I'm going to turn it over to the chair of our board, Stephen Labaton.
Thank you, Sue. It's wonderful to be back at our annual Leadership Awards evening, and I hope that next year we'll be in person once again. This is a night to celebrate the best work and inspirational lives of leaders in the field of advancing the rights of our children. It's a night to commemorate and celebrate 3 leading lights in particular: Dorothy Roberts, Cyntoia Brown-Long, and Tom Grisso. We are so honored to have you tonight and to take a moment to commemorate your extraordinary achievements and express our appreciation for your lifelong pursuits of improving our society in profound and fundamental ways. I also want to say thank you to the selection committee, and in particular, its chair, Manuela Arciniegas, who had an incredible slate of nominees to choose from. It's especially an evening to celebrate the village that it takes in pursuit of this cause. It's a time to celebrate and convey profound gratitude to the extraordinary team of Juvenile Law Center, the lawyers and the support staff, and especially the youth advocates who through these years of pandemic and turmoil and struggle work every day in pursuit of our common mission. It's an evening to say thank you to the leadership of JLC, and in particular to Sue and to Marcia who are so unwavering and remain so hopeful in their pursuit of change, even after all they have accomplished and seen. And for me personally, it's a moment to express my gratitude to the extraordinary board that I have been so blessed to lead these 4 years for their selfless and fierce devotion to this cause. Most especially, it's an evening to say thank you to you, our most loyal supporters, without whom we would not be able to do what we do year in and year out as we approach our half-century point as the leaders in the field. So welcome, enjoy the program, and thank you again for all you do in support of our children.
Hello, I'm Lorraine Ballard-Morrill, Director of News and Community Affairs for iHeartMedia in Philadelphia. I was happy to work with Juvenile Law Center this year in promoting their 2022 Leadership Prize and having the chance to speak recently with winners Dorothy Roberts and Tom Grisso. Thank you for joining us tonight as we honor leaders whose work has been both transformational and or brings needed attention to the trauma and harm our child welfare and justice systems can bring into a young person's life and family. I've been a passionate advocate for young people with lived experience from those systems for most of my life. I've worked closely with juvenile lifers who were incarcerated without parole and have been privileged to share their stories and struggles. It's important to me that you're joining us here tonight to join in these conversations and to learn more about what you can do to help support Juvenile Law Center with the work needed to make change happen. As the first public interest law firm for children in the country, they have been advocating and fighting for children's rights for 47 years, leading the charge to push for lasting and transformative change. I'm so happy that I got to know more about them and the Leadership Prize winners they chose to honor this year. Congratulations once again to Tom, Cyntoia, and Dorothy. Thank you for all you do to help young lives have better opportunities to succeed.
I began my legal career as a Zubro Fellow at Juvenile Law Center and am thrilled to serve as the treasurer of our board of directors. Tonight's Leadership Prize celebrates and honors not only the award recipients, but the critical work of Juvenile Law Center. So join me tonight in doing whatever you can to continue to support this important work.
Hi, I'm Marcia Levick, Chief Legal Officer, Juvenile Law Center. I'm truly honored to be introducing my friend and my colleague, Dr. Tom Grisso, as he receives Juvenile Law Center's 2022 Leadership Prize. Kids are different, right? We say this as if it was ever true, but from a scientific perspective, we're deeply indebted to Dr. Grisso's early, groundbreaking research, first published in the 1980s, that drew attention to youth's reduced capacity and competency to understand and waive Miranda warnings, as well as other key constitutional rights in and out of the courtroom. Trained as a clinical psychologist, Dr. Grisso has provided the blueprint for mental health professionals who must determine whether youth are competent to stand trial, are prone to future violence, or are competent to waive rights. But his research over the last several decades has also moved well beyond his initial consideration of youth competency to include a critical examination of the prosecution of youth in the adult system on the heels of the super predator era, as well as rethinking traditional approaches to risk assessment to promote greater validity and effectiveness. He's authored or edited dozens of books on these issues, and despite allegedly retiring a few years ago, he continues to write and consult and generally offer his wisdom to those of us who seek him out. And in between, he served as the director of the Mental Health and Law Corps at the Center for Mental Health Research at the University of Massachusetts. Without Dr. Grisso's work first leading the way, we might not have had the emerging and rich body of research on the developmental differences between youth and adults, that has provided the foundation for groundbreaking decisions by the U.S. Supreme Court that has literally upended how we think about kids in the justice system. Of course, Dr. Grisso is not merely brilliant. He's a kind and thoughtful colleague whom I've had the privilege of working with throughout the years. Most recently, we partnered together to bring together advocates, academics, and judges from around the world to continue the conversation about how to address the needs and rights of youth in the justice system with a more global perspective. 20 years ago, in his introduction to Youth on Trial, A Developmental Perspective on Juvenile Justice, Dr. Grisso wrote that he hoped his work would eventually lead to a juvenile justice system that better served the ultimate interests of society in its efforts to forge a rational and effective response to the needs, challenges, and promises of its youth. Today, we are still on that journey, but better equipped for all of the work that you have done. Congratulations, Tom.
Thank you, Marcia, for those very kind words. It is truly a great honor and definitely a privilege to be receiving this recognition from the Juvenile Law Center, especially since Bob Schwartz was the first recipient of it. I am taking this as a recognition of the importance of scientific research that's done by myself and by many colleagues to further the work that you folks do. But I'd also like to turn that around and thank the lawyers for their contributions to our research. I often tell my students, if you're going to do good psychology and law research, you need to have a lawyer advising or mentoring you in order to make sure that if you get worthwhile results, they're going to be legally relevant and applicable. And I have a little story about that. Back in the 1970s, when I was a very young assistant professor at St. Louis University, I got a call from the local juvenile court, the clinicians at the juvenile court, who said, Tom, they're starting to ask us to do evaluations of kids' abilities to understand Miranda rights and make confessions. This was only a few years after Galt. And we don't know how to do that. Can you help us? Well, it sounded like a good research topic to me. So but I had not done any research in psychology and law at that time. And I didn't know anything about law. So I went to see a colleague, friend at the law school who was on the faculty there and said, can you help me? He said, well, I can teach you to shepherdize, but you need to go across the street. There's a group setting up shop over there called the National Juvenile Law Center, Inc. It was a federally funded project. So I did. They took me under their wing. They taught me that part of the law that I needed to know for that project. And all through my career, there have been lawyers and youth law advocates who have been willing to advise me in the design of my research to make sure that it'll be legally relevant. There's a little sequel to that story. Last month, I was talking to Marcia Levick. I said, is there any connection between the Juvenile Law Center in Philadelphia and that National Juvenile Law Center in St. Louis back then? And this is what she said. There, in the 1970s, when she and Bob Schwartz were setting up the Juvenile Law Center in Philadelphia, the National Juvenile Law Center in St. Louis was advising them and mentoring them. It's a small world. And it was another 20 years till I met Bob Schwartz and Marcia Levick. And they became my legal mentors for developing our research, for instance, on juveniles' competence to stand trial. So bottom line, thank you to all of the lawyers and youth law advocates who help us science nerds do the research that then helps you in your work. My best wishes to the Juvenile Law Center for their continued work to improve the juvenile justice system for the benefit of kids.
Tom, I join your many admirers in congratulating you on receiving the Leadership Prize. As you'll recall, we met in the mid-90s when Lori Garducki and Larry Steinberg brought together researchers like you and practitioners like me into what became the MacArthur Foundation Research Network on Adolescent Development and Juvenile Justice. It was a challenging time. We were trying to protect kids from harm as legislatures around the country were sending them to adult criminal court and to adult jails and prisons. You had already shown through your Miranda work that research could have an impact on policy and practice. You reminded the world that kids are different. You continued to have a remarkable impact through the research network and through your national work on mental health screens. I was fortunate to watch you lead the network's competency study, and I was even luckier to spend time working with you on a book. Tom, your work helped transform our field. At every step, you have been brilliant, humble, and gracious. Like so many practitioners across the country, I never formally studied with you, yet I was always one of your students. You've been a great teacher, a superb leader, and a steadfast friend. Congratulations.
Hello, this is Stephen Fry, and I want to congratulate the winners of the Juvenile Law Center Leadership Prize, and they are Cyntoia Brown-Long, Dorothy Roberts, and Tom Grisso. Congratulations to the three of you. And I just wanted to add that when I was young, just a boy, I got caught up in the penal and judicial system. And one of the things that is most upsetting is that young people, although they put out a front of being adults, inside they're very often still insecure and unsure and need to be treated with the love and respect that children should be treated everywhere. And I hope that's something that goes into the juvenile system, and the prize winners will have helped with their wonderful work. So thank you on behalf of my young self and on behalf of young people everywhere.
Hi, I was a partner with Juvenile Law Center for about a decade when I ran an organization working to reform the juvenile justice system in Washington, D.C. Now I'm working in corporate philanthropy, and I'm so proud to be connected to Juvenile Law Center as a board member. I encourage everyone, individuals, foundations, and corporations, to give generously to Juvenile Law Center to support the important work they're doing on behalf of young people across the country. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ria Saha Shah, Managing Director of Juvenile Law Center, and it is my great honor to present this award to Cyntoia Brown-Long. In 2005, at just 16 years old, Cyntoia was convicted of first-degree murder. As a victim of sex trafficking in her early teens, Cyntoia was given a life sentence with the earliest possibility of parole after 51 years for killing a man who solicited her for sex. The sentencing court thought that this was the end of Cyntoia's story, but she knew otherwise. Fueled by a desire to further her education and to enact positive change, Cyntoia fought to have her sentence reduced in federal and state courts. Juvenile Law Center led several advocacy organizations across the country to weigh in on Cyntoia's case to have her reap the benefits of the U.S. Supreme Court's decision striking mandatory life sentences for children. But in a system that criminalized Cyntoia for protecting herself against an adult who was exploiting her, Cyntoia found no relief. She vowed to make her time in prison a time of transformation. She graduated with honors from Lipscomb University and relied on her faith and the love of her family and a new husband. Her final hope was to have her sentence commuted. We submitted a letter in support of her commutation on behalf of organizations all across the country. Influential individuals and celebrities joined in her cry for release. And nearly 2 years later, Cyntoia was finally released after spending nearly 15 years, her most formative years, behind bars. Upon release, she got right to work. She's now an avid public speaker on the trauma young girls and women face, and she uses her voice to seek change in the juvenile and criminal systems. She and her husband founded JFAM, the Justice, Freedom, and Mercy Foundation, to raise awareness and funds for those working on these important issues. As she works to enact systemic change, Cyntoia is consistently grounded in the direct mentorship she provides young girls in the system. She's partnered with Epic Girl to establish the Grassroots Learning Initiative on teen trafficking, exploitation, and rape. Given her experiences, it was important to Cyntoia that she create a program that promoted strategies to prevent commercial sexual exploitation of children, and it was important to her that the program was youth-led. Her partner on the project, Stasia Freeman, wrote, "While she has traveled across the country speaking on these issues, Cyntoia is happiest when she is mentoring a teen who, like herself, has been impacted by these systems." In under 3 years since her release, Cyntoia has made an enormous impact on the lives of young people all across the country. It is my great honor to present Cyntoia Brown Long, Juvenile Law Center's 2022 Leadership Prize. Congratulations, Cyntoia. We can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction, Ria. And thank you for all the years that you and the Juvenile Law Center have fought for me, have supported me while I was fighting for my freedom. Since I've been released, I have been paying it forward, being a voice for other young people still in the system. Other young people whose voices are not heard, whose faces are not known. It's something that God has given me a heart for. And I mean, it's not really work to me, to be honest. It feels more of a purpose. So I appreciate being honored for that being recognized with this award. And I just want to say that it gives me so much motivation to keep going even harder, to keep fighting even harder. And I'm going to do just that. So thank you to Charles Bone, who fought for years and years for me to be freed, to my partner in our nonprofit work, Stasia Freeman of Epic Girl, to everyone who supported me along the way in this journey and in this work. I just want to say thank you. This award, it's not really for me, but you know, it's all of us because we've been working as a team. So thank you for standing beside me in this fight to have young people's voices heard and for their lives to matter.
I have been privileged to be the lawyer for Cyntoia Brown Long for over 10 years. I am so proud of her and thankful for the great work she is now doing on behalf of juvenile justice and justice in general all across the world.
I've known Sue for over 40 years, and she asked me to bring my communication skills to the Juvenile Law Center board. I'm so impressed with all of the work that they do, raising awareness and changing the narrative around the systems that are purported to help the children and youth who are in those systems. I applaud their work, and I hope you will join me in supporting their strong leadership team and the mission ahead.
Good evening and welcome. My name is Marcia Hopkins. I am the Senior Manager of Program and Policy at Juvenile Law Center. And tonight I am deeply honored to present our 2022 Leadership Prize Award to Professor Dorothy Roberts. Professor Roberts is an acclaimed scholar of gender, race, and the law, and she currently teaches at the University of Penn and the School of Africana Studies, Sociology, and the School of Law, where she holds the inaugural Raymond Pace and Sadie Tanner Mossel Alexander Chair. She is also the founding director of Penn's program on race, science, and society in the Center for Africana Studies. Professor Roberts is an acclaimed scholar and researcher who has examined families who come in contact with carceral systems like the child welfare and criminal system. She is an author of over 100 scholarly articles and has written several books, including Killing the Black Body and her most recent book, Torn Apart: How the Child Welfare System Destroys Black Families and How Abolition Can Build a Safer World. One of her most notable books, and one of my favorites, is Shattered Bonds: The Color of Child Welfare. Shattered Bonds scrutinizes and holds accountable the child welfare system for its institutionalized and structural racism and violence against Black families. For 20 years, Shattered Bonds has made history in the field. It continues to show the compelling stories of Black mothers and their families and the starring role that this country and our government has had in the degradation, destruction, and separation of Black families. For me, I see my experiences in Professor Roberts' work, and I see her work as honoring Black mothers everywhere. Specifically, I see my own mother's story in her work, as my mother was a young mom who had her children unknowingly taken from her, and she had to fight for 8 years to win us back. I told my mother I had the honor of presenting this award tonight to Professor Roberts, and I asked my mother if she could sum up her experiences with the child welfare policing system in a few words. She said, "They treated me like trash, unfairly, tried to make me look unfit, and it was all because of the color of my skin." She went on to say that mentally it's so devastating, that after they tell you that your children can't go home, there's the pain that you feel as a mother. And she said she didn't know what she will be capable of doing and that she still has nightmares about it. And she told me to tell you, Professor Roberts, thank you for all of your work and for fighting for us, because the system tells lies and scandalizes us, Black mothers. And we know that it's a system of bigotry and bias. I believe that for many of us who have experience in the system, we see our stories in your work. And we feel the collective pain that has been inflicted on families of color and those overrepresented by these systems. But we are grateful for you and those like you who are representing our parents, our siblings, and our friends, and fighting alongside families to bring our stories and experiences to light so we are no longer hidden in the shadows. You challenge all of us to remember the history of this nation against Black people and those most marginalized in this country. And you push us all to move towards not a radical, but a reclaiming of family by knocking down these oppressive systems and instead co-designing systems of love, support, resources, community, and healing. You truly fight for a world where families like me can exist without fear of losing their loved ones due to the color of our skin. So again, it's with deep pleasure and deep honor that we present you with this award this year. Thank you.
Receiving this leadership prize is deeply meaningful to me because of Juvenile Law Center's dedication to justice for children entangled in punitive state systems. I'm extremely grateful for this recognition of my work toward creating a society that truly promotes children's welfare and keeps children safe. Over the last 20 years, between writing my book, Shattered Bonds and Torn Apart, I've become persuaded that we can't fix these carceral systems, which are designed to target the most politically marginalized communities, disrupt their families, and criminalize their children. No, we must abolish them. That means dismantling them piece by piece while we radically reimagine how to support children and their families. Family policing thrives off the myth that the way to care for children is to take them away from their families. When we call for an end to this system, we're sometimes accused by people invested in it of not caring for children. I so appreciate that Juvenile Law Center recognizes the connection between traumatizing children in the so-called child welfare system and in the so-called juvenile justice system. I'm especially thrilled that I was nominated by Sixto Cancel, an amazing advocate for youth in foster care who lifts up their experiences and their voices. I hope that this leadership prize will help to spotlight the growing abolitionist movement to replace the logic of surveilling and separating families in the name of protecting children with an approach that truly cares for their welfare. Thank you, Juvenile Law Center, from the bottom of my heart.
Professor Roberts, congratulations and thank you. Thank you for believing mothers. Thank you for valuing families. And thank you for challenging us all to envision a radically different way of caring for children.
Hi, everybody. I'm Philadelphia City Council member Helen Gim, and I am honored to join you tonight at the Juvenile Law Center's annual event to celebrate the honorees of the 2022 Leadership Prize, to Professor Dorothy Roberts, to Cyntoia Brown Long, and to Professor Thomas Grisso. Thank you so much for your transformative research, your activism, and your work to change the way we look at young people and how this city, this country, and this world needs to treat them better. And of course, to my wonderful partners at Juvenile Law Center, congratulations on this incredible event. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all the work that you're doing, and we will continue to be your partners in City Hall to change this world with you.
Hi, my name is Sasha Coupe, and I'm a proud new board member of the Juvenile Law Center, where, when I was a law student, I had the pleasure of serving as a 1L summer intern. Now, as a law professor, I remain a fan and a partner, and I urge you to join us and the Juvenile Law Center in its pioneering work to end the abuses of the child welfare system.
Congratulations.
Hi, my name is Scott Barsky. I got to know Juvenile Law Center as their audit partner on their account and later joined their board of directors. I'm involved in many nonprofit organizations, and I can attest to the passion and commitment of the staff as well as the strong financial management. Join me in investing in their work. Thank you very much.
I grew up in the Philadelphia area and have known about the work of the Juvenile Law Center for as long as I can remember. My father was active in the organization. I interned there in college and then again in law school, and I'm now proud to continue to contribute to the organization as a member of the board. Just want to say a big congratulations to our truly inspiring Leadership Prize winners of 2022.
I'm new to the board and really enjoyed tonight. Learning about children's rights, legal advocacy, the careers of tonight's recipients, and the work of Juvenile Law Center. I am an investment professional, and I encourage you to invest in Juvenile Law Center to truly make a difference.